There's a lot of big news lately that Elon Musk's personal reputation is the reason Tesla's faltering. Oh my gosh, what a tragedy. If only it was real and or backed up by the data. Maybe it is real. Maybe the impact is substantial. I don't know, but we're going to have a chat about that. Me and Randy Kirk from the Randy Kirk Hour a day of great stuff. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza.
You rebranded, and I've always been thinking about rebranding the Randy Kirk Hour.
The
Maybe
Randy
not.
Kirk low power hour.
Low power. You could have
Well,
said
that's true. That's true. We'll call you 48 volt Randy. Uh-huh. All good stuff. And
yeah.
so you've seen this. Tesla, Elon Musk's reputation is falling, and it's taking Tesla with it. The case for separating the art from the artist is becoming increasingly difficult for customers. So just at first blush, do you buy it?
All right. So I have to take this from the standpoint of who I am in real life. In real life, I'm a marketing consultant for the last 15 years. I've been writing books about marketing and business, and especially retail business, for 40 years. Many of those actually sold, believe it or not. But anyway, in particular, the bicycle retail industry, as most people know, I have told bicycle retailers forever, your shop should be inviting to everybody. It should not have skulls hanging from the ceiling. It should not have horrible, crazy, wild music playing that will cause offense. It shouldn't have your employees swearing in the background when you're bringing little children in, or even older children who don't like swearing. So, yes, in general, in business, you're trying to make sure that you're being inviting to the largest crowd you can possibly get. Having said that, the opposite is also true. You can take a position if you're a retailer. You can say, okay, I'm going to fight for this cause, and now you'll get cause people following you. And hopefully you don't get too many that care so much, hate the cause so much that they don't walk in. But if you get cause people following you, oh no, you're probably going to increase your revenues. So there you go. It's a complicated issue.
It is a complicated issue. So this, I take objection with some of the methodology here. It's very likely a contributing factor in Tesla's declining sales, according to corporate reputation tracking firm Caliber. The survey data reported by Reuters said that Tesla's consideration score, a metric used by Caliber to track consumers' interests, asked the question, I would buy or continue buying products and services from Tesla if given the chance. It's fallen to 31%. That number strikes me as a little suspicious. And
It does.
and one reason I will share with why is when Tesla did the big price cuts last year, and the Model 3 all of a sudden is around $35,000, there were a lot of people I saw on social media, Reddit specifically, who said, look, I hate the guy, but 35 grand. So everyone has a price, and it seems that for an awful lot of people, that price was $5,000. And it's not even like you're being given 5,000, you're just being given a discount worth 5,000. 31% strikes me as low. So here's the numbers. And I would believe that there are 31%, that there's 69%, nice, of people who would answer that on a survey and say, yeah, I wouldn't buy one. I don't have one now, and I wouldn't buy one because he's so toxic. But if that's true, I definitely don't think it was 70% just a short time ago, just last year. This shift is too seismic considering his position with all the Twitter stuff, now X, has been going on longer than that.
And there's another thing too, Brian, is the reason that number struck me as being absolutely ridiculous and probably worthy of redoing before they even published it, because they should have taken it as being ridiculous, as too radical a change, is that not that many people care enough. I mean, 50% of the people don't vote. Only 10 or 15% of the people are actively interested in politics. Now, by the way, I grabbed that out of the sky. That is not a real statistic, but
Right.
but you know what I'm talking about. There's only a very small percentage of the population that will break into their beer and barbecue on the weekend to even contemplate what's happening in politics.
And a lot of what Tesla does is business to business. If you were to do a survey and say, how likely are you to buy a mega pack? It'd be 99% no, because they cost $2 million. And I don't have use for a $2 million battery. That's too much juice for my application. Now, these headlines are pretty popular. Wall Street death inside the tail of Tesla's fall to earth. Musk's leadership beginning to splinter loyalists. Would-be buyers club snub company as Musk's reputation. What's wrong with Tesla? And these are, it's a very popular thing to do. So let's look at this Clean Technica one here. You might be surprised who took the #1 spot in the loyalty brand, in the brand loyalty. You wouldn't be surprised because you put a giant picture of Rivian. In the early days, Tesla enjoyed very high numbers, but now it is lower. Those early adopters were likely shareholders. Those are the people super, super excited saying, look, I am in love with this whole thing. Of course, I'm going to buy another one. Now what we're seeing is the same with Rivian. They're at about 86%. It doesn't quite show up on here because I made it too big, but 86% brand loyalty for Rivian. Those are Rivian investors. I'm not saying the number is a lie. And here we're seeing brand loyalty for Tesla at 74%. That's still very good.
Yes.
And that's among, I think the green represents electric. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know, and I don't care. Not only did Rivian take the #1 spot, but the company bests the next brand by 9%. That should tell you it's an unsustainable number. Nobody's going to keep numbers that high. Ferrari and Lamborghini don't have numbers that high. No one does. How could they?
And also you've got early adopters there. So yeah. Tesla is past the early adoption stage. People are not recognizing this really important part of marketing. In the early days with Tesla, for the first 4 or 5, 6, 7 years, it was early adopters and it was people who bought the mission, not just the stock. So when you talk about Rivian, people are buying the supposed really high tech. So they are definitely, early adopters. They are probably negative Tesla. They're probably, I want anything but a Tesla, or they're saying the only truck I can really buy is a Rivian. And so they've got some axes to grind. And when you've got an axe to grind, you typically are going to be more loyal.
I think that's very possible. It's also possible that, Rivian is going after a slightly different market share. They're looking at the off-road enthusiasts and all that. So I don't see it being that big of a deal. I know a lot of Tesla owners who also own a Rivian because they're about the mission, not the brand. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's not necessarily an Elon thing. So then if we look here, we've got, this is how bad it is. Tesla has retaken the crown. And yeah, Tesla's sales were down, but not as far down as BYD's. BYD had one heck of a fourth quarter. And then this chart isn't helpful. It's, well, look at, these models, right? But BYD has a lot of models. And I think, all of these are great. But the fact that Tesla's sales are so strong, despite being a more expensive brand, is ridiculous. It's crazy. It's amazing. BYD offers a significantly lower entry point. Yeah, $9,700 for the Seagull.
Yeah,
that's compelling. You don't have to like a car if it's $9,700. That's just a bargain anyhow you slice it. And then Tesla's EV charging lead isn't going anywhere. Now you're going to be able to, at one point they had almost 100% of the public fast chargers,
right,
because that wasn't a thing. And of course that percentage will dip. If you start at 100 and your competitors make 1, you've lost market share. So this number is good for Tesla because the Tesla supercharging network is fantastic. If you buy from another brand, even if you can use a Tesla charger, you better hope that your charging port is in a convenient location. Future ones, I'm sure, will have longer cables,
right.
maybe. But what about the 50,000 that have already been deployed? Do you want to use those or not? And Rivian said this week that they will consider moving the charge port from the passenger rear quarter
Oh,
But where they would move it to is the driver's front quarter. Same problem. That's so crazy. If you really want curbside charging, put it on the front and then you can still use Tesla superchargers. What are you thinking? Uh, and this is a slightly different chart, but you get the idea. And then this was another one from that list that was shown how Tesla and its Chinese competitors compare in 4 charts. So market cap, yes, Tesla has an outsized market cap, but look at Toyota. That's a
mhm.
that is unprecedented. If you've got shares in Toyota and you've seen that their new strategy is, hey, let's make more plugins, maybe it's time to rethink that and keep your wins. And then, of course, we've got this similar one to what we just saw that Tesla has again overtaken BYD. So if it's Daddy Bad tweet making everyone so sad they won't buy Teslas, what did the CEO of BYD say? Oh, it must be
Yeah,
really
right.
bad.
Yeah,
What did I mean? Come on. Uh, and then yeah, these are some operations for BYD. These are countries where yeah, there's um, factories. So Tesla has factories in the US, Germany, and China, but BYD has more factories in more markets and more announcements that look to be legit and compelling. So all of those are interesting. Do you think?
so what I really think is that these folks are all of a particular political persuasion, the ones that are trying to make the case. And they're trying to make the case that Elon has left the tribe because leaving the tribe is always the worst thing you can do. If you stop being a Christian, or you stop being a Muslim, or you stop being a Buddhist, and you go over to the other tribe, and you're no longer with the original tribe, some of those tribes will kill you. And some of those tribes will merely shun you. And some of
Mm,
those tribes will merely look at you cockeyed.
mm,
But they don't like you to leave the tribe. It's just not good. And so Tesla has left a tribe, and there's a lot of angry people in the old tribe that are trying to make it a bigger deal than it is. In the meantime, when you join the new tribe, it takes a while for those folks to get to know you. And so the new tribe, he's now, I think his politics is very centrist right now. I think is really, he's got kind of a wide swath of the population because he goes all the way from kind of liberal on some subjects to conservative on other subjects. And so he's got plenty of tweets every day that somebody could like. And so he might actually end up with a overall gain from his political activity, in particular, his pursuit of free speech as being the most important thing that we have to be concerned about.
I am not interested in the political side, so I'm not going to address any of that. Uh, but I will show you this tab here. This is pretty interesting, I think. Tesla, Toyota, or Hyundai, who were at best a first quarter US sales analysis. So because it's clearly Elon is the reason when a brand sells fewer cars, I'd like to know what he did to make Acura sales go down or Alfa Romeo sales or Audi. And by the way, Acura, did you know they only sell like 12,000 cars a month in the
Wow.
US?
Wow.
I would have guessed it was 4 times that at least, but and Buick is up because, Mary led, but
Yeah.
Cadillac and Chevy are down. So what we're seeing is a mixed bag. Would you
Yes.
agree that this represents a mix? Because look at the chart, half of it's red and half of it's green.
Well,
That's
and
a
I think
mixed bag.
And I think Elon's tweeting also is clearly the reason why he has the number one selling vehicle in the world. And never in history has that number one selling vehicle been one of the most expensive vehicles on the market. So, I mean, that must be because of bad tweets.
It must be. The best selling vehicles have always been the cheapest or the second cheapest price point in their categories. So I just, and in the US, of course, we see trucks selling quite well, but you can get the same truck in a very cheap option or a very premium option with all kinds of bells and whistles. Here's a little chart showing price cuts over time. Um, Important to note that even though these price cuts have happened, the margins have remained healthy. The cost of goods sold has decreased steadily. All of it is, I don't know, I think it's hard to argue that there isn't some brand damage, but I think it's easy to argue that it's not a significant percentage, and that while he may have turned away some buyers, he may have attracted others. I haven't seen good polling or good data on that to know what the actual effect is, but it's hard to blame one person or even one entire company when it's following the trends that we're seeing elsewhere. If you want to see sales really take off, lower the rates. The interest rates are a bit of a bear right now, and they are dragging on the market across all brands.
The other thing about interest rates, though, is that over time they will normalize. So even if they stay at the current levels for the next 20 years, they will eventually become normal. How do I know this? Oh, because they were much higher from 1970 to 2000 than they are now. And gosh, the economy did really, really well in the 90s, or the 80s and the 90s, actually, with a little blip in 91, I think it was. But other than that, from 1983, whenever the Reagan recession was over, the from 83 or 84 until 2000, when the bubble burst, was pretty much a straight up economy with interest rates much higher than they are right now.
When I was a loan officer in the 90s, when interest rates on a 30-year fix came down to the historic, unbelievable rate of 7.25, we were selling those things like hotcakes. They're never going to be this low again. And then they got to 6, and then they got to 5, and then they just kept falling. It was a very crazy time, and it was pretty easy to help people build generational wealth for a little while.
The average mortgage on a 30-year rate over 100 years has been a little over 6%. So the fact that we're sitting at about 6.8, 6.9 right now is not radically too high.
No, it's just more difficult because house prices are much higher, adjusted for inflation, than anything else out there. And it's brutal for a lot of first-time buyers are having a hard time. When I sold the previous house, the couple that bought it were in their 30s. They were a working professional couple, and it was their first home. We used to see that happen in your mid 20s, sometimes early 20s. I helped a guy who was a union welder in 97, who was 19 or 20, bought his house. It was because he made, good money.
Yeah.
And he could afford it, and he wasn't looking for anything crazy. So very disappointing and weird. Different times, man. So
Yes.
I did want to mention, if you love what you see, you can always support me. You can use my referral code. Support me on Patreon, YouTube, or X. And all of these links will be in the description, as they always are. And if you're still hungry for more, head on over to that old Randy Kirk channel, see what he's been up to lately. He has some great guests, and also me. So what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Leave it into them comments below. And, like, subscribe, do the usual things. Double check you're subscribed. Some people have found that they've been unsubscribed. So that's not good, including people I know personally. So they were like, that's very
Your mother
strange.
too?
No, she wouldn't have watched this when she was alive. So that's fine. Hey, I don't expect my friends to be as nerded out on EVs as I am, and I get it. That's fine. We can just hang out and have fun. So stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots next time I have Randy back, which I'm guessing it's going to be tomorrow, when we talk about India.